We are live, locked and loaded. I'm with Ghost. He's got the backwards hat. I got the backwards hat. We're both rocking a gray hoodie, so we're feeling good. And Ghost, I talked to you earlier, before we got on the show. And did you ever think it'd be, like, what is it, 4 or 5 days before Thanksgiving? And we're sitting here with a 55 rush prop total on your boy, Derrick Henry. And none other than Devin Singletary has the highest rush prop on the entire slate, sitting at 75.5. When I saw it this week, I was like, I don't know what I'm more shocked about. Henry in this position at 54 rush yards. Typically, he's in the 80s, 90s, and the hundreds. Or Devin Singletary at 75.5. What's good, man?
I think it's good, bro. It's been a while since we've done one of these together, so definitely was looking forward to the show. Filling in for Sticks. I appreciate you riding this one out with me, though I didn't have to go solo pod for everyone that's listening out there a week before Thanksgiving. But we will talk about Derrick Henry. I have some love for that game, and obviously cannot talk about the Tennessee Titans without talking about my boy Derrick Henry.
There you go. So let's break it down, man. There's a lot of ownership out there, a lot of plays. I was talking it last night with Tony, on Sirius XM. We'll break down each game, break down each position. Goes, what do you want to do? Position, games? How do you want to do this today? It's your call, man.
Yeah, we'll do it the usual way. We'll go position by position, talk cash versus tournaments, and then we'll get some questions. Obviously, as you guys know, we're not doing full lineup reviews. Hit us up in Discord for that. But if ever you have a start-sit question for your season-long leagues, dynasty questions, or anything at all, feel free to drop it in the comments and make sure to absolutely hit that like button for us, please.
Yeah, 100% on the like button too. I got some hats in. So if we hit 50 likes, I will send out some free hats to a couple people. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We'll be giving out some hats if we hit the 50 likes here. But going position by position, Ghost. Quarterbacks, look, we got a big slate. It's funny to say that we got Josh Allen, just due to the raw, value that he typically brings. Still sitting on top of our projections, but nobody's playing him because the Jets defense is legit. The Bills are slightly broken. I do think the Bills win this game, but I'm not playing any Josh Allen in my main lineup and any cash lineups, any optimal lineups. It feels kind of crazy, but are you doing the complete Josh Allen fade, or are you going to get some shares here in GPPs?
No, he's actually going to be one of my 3 max quarterbacks. So for those that play the large field contests, those with the $100, $200, $300,000 entrants, doesn't matter if you're entering 150 lineups or not. Those are large field contests. I'm not just limiting Josh Allen to those types, right? He is going to be one of my 3 max quarterbacks because he does have the highest upside on this slate, right? No Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the Super Bowl rematch takes place on Monday Night Football, and it was supposed to be at least back-to-back bangers in prime time, and the Thursday night game kind of let us down, I'll say. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow went down with injury, and Mark Andrews went down with injury, and we're going to touch on that a little bit, how it affects a certain AFC team out there. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Buffalo does look like they're in shambles right now. Offensive coordinator getting the boot and seemed to be the odd man out there. Somebody had to get the axe, and unfortunately it was him. But Josh Allen at home here, I respect the Jets defense. I respect Sauce Gardner, obviously, but I think it's going to be a crystal clear way to get different on this slate. You're getting the quarterback that has the highest potential to lead the slate in scoring. I absolutely love Stephon Diggs. We're going to talk about that when we touch on wide receiver positions as well. And there's another guy that I really like to at a very chalky position that is sitting right above 2 of the chalkiest tight ends there. So I am on this game. You don't even have to force a run back with absolutely no disrespect to your Jets, Jay, but with how bad that offense looks, you don't have to force a run back in this one. But I am playing Josh Allen as one of my three max quarterbacks. Absolutely.
Yeah, so Allen, look, I respect the Jets defense too much to kind of go there. I don't mind him for GPPs. Like if I'm entering 150, he's in my player pool, probably somewhere in that 5-10% range. It's the easiest way to get different. Nobody's going to play him, but you're paying up too, so you're going to have to discount other spots. But I get to play 100% now. The next, let's get this out of the way. It's going to be a lot of talk about Houston and Arizona, rightfully so. CJ Stroud has been legit. Kyler Murray surprised some, bouncing back first game back, running and slinging the ball around and playing well, better than expected. So everybody's on these two quarterbacks going into this game. Kyler Murray, most likely your cash game quarterback, can't get away from it too much. I see some people playing Brock Purdy. I see, Jared Goff right below there. I do think you can go either of those two directions and be fine with it. I know Sticks is on Justin Fields. Probably not in cash, but there's some upside on both sides of the plate here. CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, both in play. I posted in Discord today. Look, I'm not going to tell anybody not to play any Texans or any, Arizona Cardinals because the price is right on everybody. You have the running backs all in play, Singletary and Connor. They're greatly, they're at a great price on DraftKings. From a wide receiver position, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, all in play. Schultz in play. On the backside of it, you got Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore. I think Wilson is going to be out this game, and I think he's leaning more towards doubtful. We'll get to that. But these quarterbacks are in play, man. Stroud is doing his thing. He's $7,000. Arizona's D is very suspect. They're involved in a lot of high-scoring games all season long. So we don't have to talk up, CJ Stroud and Kyler Murray too much. If you want to get less ownership, I would say go Stroud in GPPs over Kyler Murray. It's a $9,000 discount that you get with Murray, but, Stroud's got the pedigree. He's the better quarterback. He's got the better offense, the better team, going against a worse defense here. So I can make every case to go Stroud over Kyler Murray in any kind of situation here. Ghost, your thoughts on these two QBs?
And we were talking about it before the show. This game is frustrating to say the least because all the ownership is drawing to 6+ skilled position players. Kyler has to be your cash game quarterback. We'll discuss that when we wrap up the show there, when we go cash versus tournaments for our top plays. The way that I'm approaching this one in tournaments is completely fading the main chalk guys. So rather than playing Kyler Murray, I'm playing Stroud, and I'm running it back with James Conner, right? So I'm playing the script that Arizona gets up. It's a running game for the Cardinals. The total does stay relatively lower than what people are insinuating. Like the way people are playing this game, it's almost like they're thinking this game's going to go 70+ points. Vegas has the total moving up a little bit, but it's just because of the amount of action that they're taking on it, right? So they're just hedging their bets there. It's nothing too crazy, but for me, it's going to be Stroud with Nico Collins, who is surprisingly the only player in this game that is not drawing too much ownership. Yeah. I'm going Stroud, Nico Collins. You could add Tank Dell if you want. Just be wary that he's extremely high owned. And I'm running it back with James Conner. So it's not to say that any of these guys are bad plays. Kyler's a good play. Stroud's a good play. We're going to talk about McBride when we get to the tight end position. Like, there's a ton of good plays in this game. The only thing better than two bad offenses is two even worse defenses, and that's the case in this one. I'm not saying faded entirely, but if this game flops, you're jumping tens of thousands of people because everybody on the planet is playing this game today.
Yeah, it looks like Kyler Murray going to be around 15% owned. Stroud probably closer to 10 to 12% owned. The running backs, we'll talk about it, but I'll say it now. Singletary over 30% owned. James Conner under 20%. Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore are going to be between 15 to 20%. Tank Dell 20%. And like Ghost said, Nico Collins, the only guy that's going to be sub 10%. And Trey McBride is going to be the most popular guy in this slate. Most likely him and Singletary. He's going to be around 30%, where Dalton Schultz only around 15%. I want to get some questions to Ghost a little bit later about this game. Like, if you were game stacking a game, is it 2 from each side plus a quarterback? Is it 3 potentially? We've seen that work out with Houston, but we'll get that a little bit later. Also, I got some props on this game that I really do like. So we'll talk about that. But staying with the quarterback position here now, I know Sticks likes Justin Fields here. The rushing floor is there. DJ Moore is there. Cole Kmet is there for him. Have some options to throw deep to Darnell Mooney. What's your take, though, Ghost, on Fields? Because GPPs, he's in play for sure. He can run for 100. You're going to run for 120. It's not his legs that are hurt. It's his thumb. So I can see him being in play, but I do also respect the Lions defense. Not that they're amazing by any stretch of it, but they are good. They are good enough where Justin Fields is not that great. It's rushing upside. What's your take on Justin Fields?
The rushing floor is absolutely present. Whether it's his first week back or not, he wouldn't be playing this game if he wasn't healthy. The Bears have absolutely nothing to play for this year.
And
Let's be real about this.
his rush prop is anywhere between 47 and 50,
Yeah.
depending on the book you're looking at. So you do have that 5-point floor right there.
Yeah, and when we're talking about a player that's actually on the Detroit side of this now, David Montgomery's not playing for Chicago anymore, right? So Justin Fields, his rushing upside within the red zone absolutely increased, right? So the touchdown equity is there in the red zone for a guy like Justin Fields. I feel like they are going to be chasing points early and often in this one. You don't even have to really stack him with anybody if you don't want to. I mean, I played Justin Fields. I went really wonky with this one. This was in the large field tournaments. I went Justin Fields with DJ Moore. It was actually it was actually Badgett that had a better connection with Cole Kmet, believe it or not. So I'm not playing Cole Kmet. I'm getting different at tight end in another way when I was referring to Josh Allen. But Justin Fields, I'm playing him with DJ Moore. And I actually have a lineup with both Lions running backs in this one. So David Montgomery, little revenge narrative for those that want to talk about that kind of stuff because it's fun. But Jahmyr Gibbs has been absolutely electric. It's not to the point where it's Devon A-Chain style where, he's getting what seems to be 4 to 5 touches a game and A-Chain's just rumbling for 150 yards on 5 touches every single week. And he is back this week. But, there is a script here where Goff is more dominant at home. But if you're playing it that Detroit gets up early and often, I could easily see these running backs combining for 3 touchdowns today, and it's a really interesting way to get different, man. So I went really wonky with this game stack.
Yeah, definitely different. You got the revenge narrative. Goff's in a great spot though, too, man. Like, I don't mind. I know you're more of a cash game player than me. Like, I don't religiously play cash. I kind of do it by accident sometimes. Like, all right, I'll throw a couple cash lineups in there. Why not? I feel good about this lineup. I'm more of a GPP player at heart. But with Goff here, in between, a Kyler Murray and a Justin Fields and a CJ Stroud, Goff is in play for me. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be pretty much in every lineup for me. It's automatic, man. You should change the last name to automatic. He's getting 10 catches, getting 100 yards. And even for a small dude, he finds his way into the end zone all the time as well. So I like Goff in this situation. He's got all his weapons. The only concern is that they do have a nice running offense as well. But I think Chicago's a little bit more stout, stopping the run game here. So if they can stay in this game long enough, I think Goff can shoot over 300 yards, pair him up with St. Brown. Goff definitely in play. You nailed the Herbert call last week. You really did. And it seemed like you got angry a little bit when I put in chat that he's too expensive. And Keenan's too expensive, and that stack's expensive. I was on St. Brown, but if you went that way, with or without Justin Herbert, if you just put Keenan Allen and Amon-Ra, you started your GPP lineup like that, you'd be sitting pretty much on any kind of competition. So Herbert, I think, is in a similar situation now, but everybody's hurt. It's no Everett, it's no Guyton. We know Mike Williams and the rest of those guys are out as well. So it's like Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston and Parham. And Keenan Allen's banged up too. Like, he's coming in questionable. So I'm kind of off Herbert at this point. You may be on him. I think the Herbert play of this week is more Tua, where nobody's playing Tua. People will still play Tyreek. Tua's going against the Raiders. The Raiders are playing a little bit, stingier. So in that scenario, maybe they hang in this game a little bit. So I think Tua's definitely in play. And then your guy, he also nailed this guy last week. And he definitely fucked me over because I had some Pollard. And I do think Pollard gets in. I put up a prop. I know you saw on Discord. We'll talk about Pollard in a second. But Dak is, I'm hearing MVP talk, which is kind of comical. I didn't think that we would get to this point of the season with Dak MVP talks. But talk about Dak, Tua, Herbert. I would probably rank it for like safety and price, price included. I go Dak 1, Tua 2, and I'm probably off of Justin Herbert, but I think he's in play anytime he plays. So talk about these three guys, Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, Herbie for me was last week. I was definitely on one last week with that call. I said Keenan Allen would leave all wide receivers in scoring, and he actually led the entire slate in scoring. And I was preaching getting exposure to that game with Amon-Ra and Keenan, and stop playing Josh Reynolds and all these other guys. But
Yeah, I
hopefully
can't do
people
that.
listened out there. If you didn't, then hopefully it kind of got your attention about what we're building over here. But I mean, for me this week, it's not going to be that. It's not only a case of not chasing with the Chargers offense, it's just more on Austin Eckler, right? So
Mhm.
I'm going to talk about running backs in a little bit to get things moving, but I'm not playing any Herbie this week. If you want to play Tua, I'm absolutely cool with it. You know exactly who to stack him with. I would get different in this case by playing Tyreek and Jalen Waddle in that stack. Fresh off a bye, this team was severely banged up, to put it lightly, in week 9. Waddle was in and out of games. Mostert was banged up. A-Chain was obviously on IR for a couple weeks there. And again, they're all coming back healthy now, but just be wary about the Dolphins right now heading into the later stages of this season, because the AFC is completely wide open, right? And this is the team that I was alluding to when I mentioned that Thursday night was supposed to be a banger of a primetime game, and it kind of ended up disappointing us a little bit due to injuries. The Bengals, it's absolutely no disrespect for whoever's going to be lining up under center right now for the Bengals, but you could pretty much all but write this team off right now, because no matter who comes in, they're not Joe Burrow.
Yep.
And you look at the Ravens, who have been absolutely rolling. They just lost Mark Andrews for the rest of the season, right? So Lamar loses his number one target, and we saw with the rushing of Lamar on Thursday Night Football, where he loses his footing at times and everything like that. That could be conditions of the field, that could be weather, it could be anything.
Every time, bro. Like every time
But
he does like a reverse butt slide. It's like, what do you like?
so
Just slide
that's
forward, bro.
all that to point out that it's not about whether his teeth, his cleats are tied up, or whether the field is bad or whatever. It's all to say that it's one bad slide away from the Ravens being out of contention too, and the AFC is wide open for Miami to line up against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs right now, right? So the team was severely banged up. They're seeing what's happening to other contenders in the AFC. I'm just saying, like, it's something to be aware of heading into the last couple of weeks of the season. You know, the Bills are in shambles. So if you are playing Tua today, I'm double stacking them with Reek and Waddle and hoping that they put up a 35 or a 42 spot. It's going to be all through the air in that case, that if you are playing it that way. But I feel like there's a lot more upside in the rushing game there with both of these guys.
Yeah,
And
I
the
think
third quarterback with Dak, that was last week, man. I give credit where credit is due, whether it's to other people or to myself. I said that Dak would rush one in, and he did. I called that script to a T, man. So I'm really hoping people ended up listening there. I played absolutely 0-20 Pollard, catch included, and it worked out extremely well. And talk about Tony Pollard when we get to running backs here, but I am not on the Dallas passing attack. If you are, it's going to be Dak with CD. That's where it starts and ends for me. Don't get you with Michael Gallup or Brandon Cooks this week, anything like that. They're not playing the Giants. It's not happening for me. I respect Carolina's pass defense there. So it's going to be Dak and CD, and that's it.
Yeah, now we're sorting by value here. Obviously, we already talked about Kyler Murray. This is our projection model at windailysports.com. If you want to lock in, we got a yearly special right now for $199 for the entire year. Black Friday, it's come a little bit early, so make sure you head over to windailysports.com. If you're not a member, if you're sorting by value, we spoke about Kyler Murray. He's on top. Purdy's in play for me at 5,800. I see some people asking in Discord, is he cash viable? Ghost, you can answer that. So I want to talk about a couple other players, though, that I think are in play for GPPs. Number one, I think Geno Smith firmly in play. If I'm stacking some GPPs up, probably go him and DK and running back with Cooper Kupp or Puka, or maybe even both those guys. Kenneth Walker, we'll talk about him in a second. So I'm on Geno. I know Sticks mentioned if you want to get deep, Jordan Love in play. I just don't see enough from this dude. At 4,500, Thomas Robinson, I guess so, maybe. I don't really feel the need to get there. But at 4,500, you get to play anybody you want. after you go ahead and do that. And I think the last guy, for GPPs only, Stafford, you pair him up with Puka and Cooper Kupp together. They're actually priced down for being who they are. So I think Stafford in play, Geno in play. I like that. And Brock Purdy. Those are the three guys I'd go, cheaper with. You can maybe convince me into Trevor Lawrence. Like if I'm entering 150, I'll probably have 5% Trevor Lawrence and, probably go with Christian Kirk there. But Ghost, out of the guys I just mentioned, just answer these questions. You don't go deep in detail. Is Brock Purdy cash viable at 5,800? Are you playing Thompson Robinson and GPPs at 4,500? And do you like this potential back and forth between Geno and Matthew Stafford? And thoughts on Trevor Lawrence?
No, yes.
I don't remember the sequence of those questions. So no one Purdy cash,
You
I'm
guys,
assuming?
yeah, like we're not going to dive this much into the player pool when it comes to running backs and wide receivers, or else we'll be here for another hour and a half. But like these guys are completely unplayable to me. DTR, anything like no, that's not even open to conversation. Purdy cash viable, like I guess, but Kyler's $100 more. So if you're playing cash on DK, it's don't get cute with it. You got to play Kyler Murray. That's what it is. He's like if Kyler was 7,900 and you're like, okay, but I could get Christian McCaffrey in my lineup because I'm playing Brock Purdy, I'd say okay, cool. But there's absolutely no point to playing Brock Purdy when Kyler's $100 more. And what was the third question?
The Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford. Do you see that panning out?
I'm on Stafford side of the football. I'm not playing Geno, but there is a wide receiver that I really like in that game, and he's my third or fourth highest exposure wide receiver in tournaments right now. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm not playing Geno, but I am playing that wide receiver. I do like Stafford, except I'm playing him with Kupp more so than Puka. And Trevor Lawrence, it's really risky. I don't feel the need to go there. It would be large field only. I would play Trevor Lawrence for Christian Kirk and run it back with Derrick Henry.
All right, so let's slide to running backs, man. I mentioned it in Discord. I mentioned it on Sirius last night. There's only 9 running backs with a rushing prop over 60 yards. That's Brian Robinson at 61, Connor at 63, Josh Jacobs around 65, Kenneth Walker 65, Pollard 65, ATN 65. C-Mac is anywhere between 65 to 69. Saquon Barkley, the one man who can actually play football on the Giants, at 70, and then Devin Singletary at 75 and a half. Those are the only running backs that I'm really looking at, minus Eckler, because he's going to do it through the air. Now, Ghost, where do you want to start at running back? Up top, McCaffrey's great at football, 9,300. You got to pay up. You got Eckler at 8,600 on the model. He's number 2. Kenneth Walker, Tony Pollard. Where do you want to start the conversation?
I mean, we don't really have to talk about Christian McCaffrey. If you guys want to play Christian McCaffrey, it's CMC, right? Like there's absolutely no reason to really fade him any single week. So if you're playing him, I'm all for it. I just respect Tampa's front 7, right? So I'm not gonna go there. I'd much rather play Tyreek Hill at the exact same price on DraftKings. But if you want to play Christian McCaffrey, by all means. At the top of the pricing grid, I do like Austin Eckler a ton in tournaments. It's Green Bay plays really slow. That's the only thing that's annoying about this one. I'm not game stacking this. I already mentioned that I'm not playing Justin Herbert. I don't really like anybody all that much on the Green Bay side of the football. If you are, I would play Luke Musgrave. But other than Eckler, I'm not really forcing a run back in this one. But you talked about how everyone's banged up on the Chargers side of the football. And Austin Eckler's target share has been absolutely skyrocketing week after week after week, right? So Herbert obviously had that hand injury and it's getting better. But again, with Keenan Allen also banged up, he's a full go today. And I have no doubt in my mind that they would not risk Keenan Allen, knowing his injury history, and especially with Mike Williams seemingly playing 4 games a season. Chargers are still making a playoff push here. They're not going to risk Keenan Allen, right? So he should be a full go, but Austin Eckler is going to get so many targets in this one, man. And that for me is absolutely huge on a platform like DraftKings where it's full PPR. I'm taking Austin Eckler at the top of the pricing grid all day.
Yeah, I like that call on Eckler. If you're paying up, you go there. Side note, have you seen Keenan Allen without a shirt on? You see how crazy his shoulder looks? It's like He's got that. I forgot what the injury is called, but like it's the grossest thing ever. Like the fact that this guy's playing each week with his shoulder looking like that, it looks like a deformity. Like it's really, really, really bad.
It's
But the
bad.
guy guts it out. It's bad looking. Yeah, Eckler up top for me. I bet your boy Tony Pollard. I don't know if you saw on Discord. It's not just because I love you and I know you love the Cowboys. I like to make money. The number's too low. I got it at 65.5, I think, at FanDuel. And then one of these glorious sites gave me, I think, plus 320 or plus 350 for him to go over 100. So he's the only rushing yard prop I went after today. Everybody else is pretty tight. But all the coach talk, everything the team is talking, it didn't make any sense to me that they didn't get this dude in the end zone last week. Like, you could have found a way, man. Like, you really could have found a way. Like, make this guy feel good. If you really have, like, Super Bowl aspirations, Pollard needs to be feeling good. And I'm sure he's feeling good. They're winning. But, like, when everybody else is winning and then, like, you're just the only guy non-performing, it can't feel good. So I think it's a get-right spot for Pollard here. I'm going to play him a bunch. I think I see a lot of cash game lineups being asked in Discord, and everybody's going to Singletary and Robinson. And for the third guy, they're going all the way up to Christian McCaffrey, or maybe going to Walker, or maybe getting cute with somebody else. But I think it's Tony Pollard for me. I think it's pretty easy, especially over on FanDuel. You're the Cowboys whisperer. I know you and McCarthy are tight. You probably have the bat phone direct to the Jerry Jones's office here. So tell me what we're doing with Tony Pollard here, man.
This one makes my heart sink, but I am playing Tony Pollard in so many lineups today. And
okay, all right. Does he go over 100? Does he go over 100? Is my bet safe?
All purpose, yeah. Rushing.
Oh, no. Strictly rushing, bro.
It depends how banged up Dowdle is, right? Like
I think Dowdle's out. I
not,
think he might be out. Like I'm seeing more doubtful than questionable. I didn't get if anybody has the inactives. We've been on the show. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We're giving out some free hats if you get over 50. But if anybody knows if he's out or not, you pump it in there. But 100 rush, come on.
He did get downgraded, right? So I'm pretty sure that was trending towards an out.
Brian just put Doodle is out. I think he meant to write Dowdle, but he wrote Doodle, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So with Doodle being ruled out, then look, it doesn't change all that much because realistically, the Cowboys will still find a way to give other people touches in the backfield. You'll see CeeDee Lamb maybe on a jet sweep or two here and there. They're gonna find a way to get other people touches in that backfield. They've always been like that, whether Kellen Moore was the OC or not. But it's just, man, like this.
Someone else saying Dowdle's in, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, regardless of whether he's in or not, just the whole point being is that they'll find a way to get a second running back touches in this game, right? That's the way the Cowboys have always been. They'll always be like that. This is not the DeMarco Murray days where he had like 350 carries after week 3. Like it's not going to be like that anymore. You saw it when Zeke was there, and it's something that's concerning with Tony Pollard. He got tackled twice inside the 1 last week, so I do feel for those that played him. I was very happy because I played him nowhere, and I told people to play him nowhere. But at the same time, it's just this is the week. This is the week. If you're going to play Tony Pollard, this is the week. He's not 40% rostered. It won't be 5%, but this 6,500 range on DraftKings is where I'm living and dying at the running back position, and Tony Pollard is going to be one of those guys for me. So have confidence that if you guys are playing him, just know that we're in the same boat together. I told everybody not to play him last week. Whether you listen or not, that was your call, but I am playing Tony Pollard a lot this week.
Let's get the question out of the way. 3 cash game running backs. Would it be Pollard, Robinson, Singletary? Good night.
I mean, you don't really have to go 3 running backs. You absolutely have to play Brian Robinson and Singletary. If you're playing a third, I would say Pollard or Montgomery. I'm cool with either one, whichever one they're probably going to come in roughly around the same ownership, but it's most likely going to be Pollard there.
Yeah, it's Pollard for me for sure. Coming off the, slightly more cashish plays, like I said, Singletary locking in, Robinson you're locking in. I like them both for cash and GPPs. I think you're still okay. You want some safety there. Let's talk about the more questionable types of plays here. Kenneth Walker, Raheem Mostert, Josh Jacobs, all within a couple $100 of each other. They're popping in our model at windailysports.com. I think they're all firmly in play for different reasons. Look, Walker, there's a guy behind him that's getting touches in Charbonnet, but it's still his ball within the red zone. So we have an up-paced game that is one of the higher scoring games here. So I think he's in play. You got touchdown equity there. Mostert, everybody wants to play H-N or H-N, however you want to pronounce his name, but Mostert is still the guy that's going to get more touches in an offense that favored by close to 2 touchdowns here. So he's in play. And then the reverse of that, Josh Jacobs is getting 99.99999% of all the touches for the Raiders. The Raiders have been playing better football. They have no passing game. O'Connell is not the truth. He's not going to really be good this year. Maybe in years to come he could be. So you don't get the touchdown, as much touchdown potential with Josh Jacobs, but you're getting all the touches. So I think Jacobs is in play as well, and he could easily score a touchdown. So how do you rank these three, Walker, Mostert, and Jacobs?
I think Sticks has them in that order for projections. I wouldn't change anything there. It's going to be Walker, Mostert, and then Jacobs for me. I know he absolutely loves Kenneth Walker, so I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to elaborate any more than that, but I know Sticks absolutely loves Kenneth Walker this week. Raheem Mostert's still the guy. I feel like him and Jahmyr Gibbs are kind of going to come in relatively lower owned than they should on a slate like this, just because both A-Chain and David Montgomery, respectively, are a little bit cheaper than each one of their counterparts. So it's a really good way to get exposure to a team that could easily lead the slate in scoring, right? So if you told me that Miami for the 1 p.m. main slate would lead all teams in points for, would not surprise me in the least, right? So getting exposure there, if you can't afford a Tyreek Hill, if you don't want to play Jalen Wall because of the injury, anything like that, Mostert's a great play. I have absolutely zero Josh Jacobs, and it's not to say that he's not a bad play, but again, I can't play everybody, and there's a ton of other running backs in that 6K range that I like. Josh Jacobs is not one of them. The one thing that I will mention about his volume, you nailed it right on the head. He will be out there for 99.9% of the snaps. He's going to get all the touches in the backfield. But just be cautious if you guys are playing him. And I know there's a lot of people there that like to favor what it sees in the game logs and what the Raiders are doing recently. And that locker room seems to be, in a way better spirit since McDaniels got fired. But just be worried that they're back-to-back games. And again, it's no disrespect to your New York football teams, Jay, but they just played arguably the 2 worst teams in the league right now, right? So they played the Jets where Zach Wilson can't move the football. So the whole game plan of the Raiders was to run the football. And then they played the Giants where, they're in shambles right now. We'll leave it at that. I think Josh Jacobs had 42 to 44 touches or something in the last 2 games. If they get down early and often with Miami coming off a bye and you're giving Mike McDaniel 2 weeks to prepare for this team and they go down 14, like you're banking on Josh Jacobs getting carries into the 20 range for him to outscore these other guys. And I don't think that's the script today.
Yeah, look, this 5K range is where I'm going to be living a lot in GPPs and cash. We mentioned Brian Robinson. He's going against the worst team in the league right now, the Giants. They can't score. This guy, Tommy DeVito, it's atrocious. Everything about the Giants right now is league worst. So Robinson is your cash game play with Antonio Gibson now. Game script in his favor. Everything says Brian Robinson should score a touchdown. He should get 80 yards. He should hit value at 5,800. He's definitely firmly in play. Same thing with Singletary. We opened with it. 75.5 rush prop. Good game script. Everything should be in his favor as well. We love Singletary. You got to play him in cash. I think he's still viable for GPPs as well. I know he's going to be highly owned. And the guy we haven't spoken much about, James Conner. I was kind of shocked last week with both Kyler Murray's production and James Conner's because they both came off injuries. They've been out for, quite some time, and they both got enormous amount of touches. Conner was firmly in play. Kyler Murray's running around like the player he always has been. So I was kind of shocked by that. The price tag of $5,700 on Conner is firmly in play while everybody's playing the chalk in Marquise Brown. I've never been a Hollywood Brown guy. Not to say that he won't get there, but the easy pivot in that game is go to James Conner at 5,700. So I think, Ghost, you can second that. A lot of people have been asking about Breece Hall. I want to get there, but I'd rather have everybody else we mentioned. Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Raheem Mostert in that 6K range. I'll take all those guys, or I'll drop down to Brian Robinson or Singletary or Connor over Breece Hall. So I don't think you have to go there. Look, can he score a touchdown? Yes. Can the Jets actually score a touchdown? I don't really know, man. They haven't done it in quite some time, so I'm probably not going to get there. I know, you mentioned some love for Montgomery here. Achane, you're flipping a coin, man. You really are. The guy is probably the most explosive running back in the league right now, but he's getting like 10 to 12 touches. What will he do with those touches? I don't think this is the game to go to Achane. Wait a week or two. Be patient. Don't go there now. Derrick Henry, I'm not playing him again. I know, there's upside there. Nobody's going to play him. He's playing, I guess, for something, his own pride. Your thoughts, Ghost, in this range? Any other running backs you want to talk about?
Brian Robinson and Singletary are going to be your cash game running backs. I have very little in tournaments just because there's so much potential for a lot of these other guys to outscore them, and that's the way that you'd be able to finish first, right? So I'm building a tournament lineup. I'm not looking at them in cash, playing all the chalk in Houston, Arizona, and then pairing that with Singletary and Brian Robinson. It's just at that point you're going with the flow. You could min cash, and if that's what you're looking for, then that's what you should be doing. But I'm looking to finish first, and for me, it's not going to happen by playing chalky running backs. So I will touch on Derrick Henry. Absolutely owns the Jags over his career, and this is a game where Tennessee has to slow down the pace because if Jacksonville gets it going through the air, they're going to be in trouble. All right, so this is a spot for Derrick Henry to absolutely smash. His price tag at 6,300, 1 week before Thanksgiving. I know Sticks mentioned him last week. I didn't really like the matchup for him in that one. I absolutely love the matchup for him today. So I will be playing Derrick Henry. I touched on James Conner. Same thing. You pretty much already explained it, but I touched on him earlier in the show. It's a good way to get exposure to that game. If it goes bonkers and you're not playing Kyler Murray, for me, the way to get different in this one, you're playing Stroud with Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz running it back with James Conner. You're getting the four guys that are still key contributors in those offenses. They're the only four guys that nobody's playing. So for me, that's the way to do it if you're playing James Conner. And there was one other guy that I wanted to touch about was David Montgomery. Yeah. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I also like to have fun doing what we do. And David Montgomery revenge narrative at home. Heavy favorites in this one. For me, you saw what he did last week too when he gave Jahmyr Gibbs that touchdown at the 1 yard line. And Dan Campbell actually sent out David Montgomery for the goal line touch, and he actually came off the field himself and told Jahmyr Gibbs, go and get the touchdown. So, you know what, it's going to be good karma coming for David Montgomery. I think Gibbs really appreciated that in his rookie season, and these guys make a phenomenal duo together. So I think both these guys have tremendous days.
Yeah, let's slide a wide receiver. We'll get to questions at the end here. Tyreek Hill, always in play. We don't need an explanation. If you need an explanation on why to play Tyreek Hill, you're watching the wrong show. He's always in play, 9,300, great spot. If I had to pick between him and Amon-Ra, I just think Amon-Ra is the better play this week. You get a slight discount here. $500 is not much. So, for every 2 shares of Amon-Ra, I'd probably have a share of Tyreek. He'll be the lesser of the 2 owned. With Keenan Allen banged up, I'm not going to be playing any Keenan Allen in a slower pace game. Green Bay is stingy on defense, and I just don't want to get there. Cooper Kupp, this will be the last time he'll be 8,100. I think he has a really good game this week. Him and Puka both in play for me. CeeDee Lamb, similar to Tyreek. If you don't know why you're playing CeeDee Lamb at this point of the season, I think you're crazy. So everybody, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, those 4 guys are in play. Amon-Ra is my cash game, pay up wide receiver. But if you can get the Cooper Kupp and you like CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill, I won't sell you off that. I do respect the Jets defense too much. I know Ghost's going to say he likes Stephon Diggs in his spot, in a bounce back spot. They got to get this guy the ball. They didn't get him the ball last week. They looked terrible pretty much most of the season. They lost to the Jets before. So I know you're going to say Diggs is in play, but when there's all those other guys there that I feel more confident in, 4 out of 5, I'll go them over Stephon Diggs. Ghost mentioned Waddle. I think he is playable, but you got to go all in if you want to go there and kind of do that 2-man game stack with Tyreek and Tua and go that route. Puka, really good price, 7,100. And then DK Metcalf, I do think the Seattle, LA game could be sneakier than some think. And with Lockett like truly questionable here at 6,900, this is your like DK Metcalf breakout game. They're gonna need him to step up. I think the Rams here stay in play, and Seattle's gonna have to score the ball to win this game. Sean McVay has, Carroll's number here. He usually beats them, so I can see the Rams pulling the upset here, and you're gonna need DK to go off. So I think DK is the low owned, high upside play under 7K that can get you to those Tyreek or Amon-Ra types of numbers. Ghost, what do you think about this top end on the wide receiver spot?
It's tough for me to get there this week, right? Because I don't want to be dumpster diving with value. In my opinion, it's really not the slate for that because everybody's going to the exact same 2 spots. They're going to Rondale Moore at the wide receiver position, which is, I can't even find the words to describe that. And they're going to Devin Singletary in tournaments. So look, like, if there were a ton of valuable guys where I could say, yeah, you know what, whether they're coming off injury or not, I really like this guy at close to min price or 3,500, 4,000 at the wide receiver position. I would say, yeah, I like a ton of these guys, right? That was the case for me last week. I preached not making a tournament lineup without the combination of Keenan Allen and Amon-Ra St. Brown and investing heavy and finding those dumpster dive values to get that done. And if you did, it really, really paid off. Paired that with a Tony Pollard fade, and you were golden there, right? So it's this week for me, it's kind of the opposite. I don't like a ton of these value guys, so it's tough for me to get there. I agree on Amon-Ra St. Brown. For me, it's going to be him and Tyreek. I'll touch on Stephon Diggs like for all of 2 seconds. I respect Sauce Gardner a ton. I think Diggs gets the better of the overall matchup, not one-on-one, but the way that Buffalo is going to scheme him open. And keep in mind now that Dorsey just got fired, Josh Allen's going to be calling plays at the line, man. And when he's doing that, he's looking to change the narrative of the season, change the narrative of what's going on in the media with his name. He's going to absolutely force feed the ball to Stephon Diggs there, right? So this is a spot for Buffalo to get it right at home in a divisional game. I do like Stephon Diggs there a ton at 9,100. Very, very low floor compared to Tyreek and Amon-Ra, but he has equally as high of a ceiling, and that's what I'm looking for in tournaments, right? I want to find a reason to play Josh Allen, and there's no Mahomes, no Hurts, no any other quarterback that could keep up with Josh Allen in terms of raw upside. You got to go with Stephon Diggs in that case. So that for me is the perfect 5% ownership type of stack in this one. I absolutely love doing that in 3 max tournaments.
Yeah, 6K, 7K. I'm off most of the players on this side of things. I think Mike Evans sticks like them for a GPP play. So Mike Evans is always in play for GPPs. He went up for 140 last week. San Fran is going to get the ball, go up. You can't run against them really. So Tampa's going to have to throw the ball. They're going to be playing from behind. So Evans in play. Devontae Adams, I can't get there at 8K. Adam Thielen, no shot at 7,500. I pretty much fade San Fran when everybody's healthy. So I'm crossing off Ayuk and Samuel. Can they get there? Yes. Am I playing them? No. Tyler Lockett's banged up. I'd rather have DK Metcalf. Garrett Wilson, he's fine. As bad as the other Wilson is, they just forced the ball to Garrett, and he's open all the time. To say that Garrett Wilson can't go for 100 and a touchdown, I can see it happening. So I think that's in play. D-Hop let me down last week. I think he's okay at 6,100. McLaurin, a good value at 5,800. The Giants stink. No thank you on Godwin. Nico Collins, we touched on it earlier. He's the best GPP play in that Houston-Arizona game because he's a number 1 receiver. He's actually good at football, great at football, and nobody's playing him. So for GPPs, I think Collins your best play. Everybody's playing Marquise Brown. Everybody's playing Tank Dell. They're firmly in play. And my favorite play from the Chicago side of that game, it's not Justin Fields. It's not Cole Kmet. Anytime I get like a number 1 receiver, no matter how mediocre the quarterback or potentially bad the quarterback is at 5,600 in an up-paced game with a total, creeping up here. I think DJ Moore at 5,600 is firmly in play. Go speak about these players in this range.
DK Metcalf's my guy that I was alluding to earlier when you were asking me if I'm playing Geno Smith or not. DK Metcalf's going to be my guy, and I will take Cooper Kupp all day at low ownership with Stafford to make that game stack happen.
Perfect.
This range it's wonky for me. Not like the main advantage to this range, I will say, none of these guys are going to be rostered at overly high rates because everyone's playing the trio of names that you have down there towards the bottom of your screen share right now, right? So
Correct.
Everyone's playing Hollywood Brown, everyone's playing Tank Dell. Even when Nico Collins back for some reason, everyone's playing Tank Dell. And DJ Moore is picking up steam as we speak, right? So I'm not going to go name by name with all of these guys, but the one, and you just ended up scrolling to him, it was actually right below where your screen was. It's Christian Kirk, man. Christian Kirk in this spot. Look, I understand the love for Calvin Ridley at this price, but the guy's been like wide receiver 350 since that week 1 explosion. That's it.
Yeah.
So for me, man, like Christian Kirk.
Don't forget when Calvin Ridley cuts with shorts on, he's super fast. Like in the preseason, like don't forget that. Like we saw that. Like look how good he cuts versus everybody else. Like I love that shit. The same thing Zach Wilson can throw on the run, and at the combine, and look at his trash ass. Like he can't do anything. Like you can't take these little plays in preseason and be like, all right, I'm gonna draft them as my number 1 wide receiver because he looked good on one cut when the other guy's probably hung over, didn't want to cut, and this guy looks fast next to him. Like it's ridiculous. But go on.
No, I agree 100%. It's like that every time someone mentions something to me about, like whether in any sport, a training camp, anything at all, the main thing that my mind goes to is when people said that Jamar Chase can't catch because he had like 3-4 drops in practice or something, and that take
look at
aged
Dak.
like
I was
milk.
kind of on
So
I was kind of on the Dak interception train in practice, and that hasn't worked out for me either. So yeah, like anytime you show me a clip of somebody wearing shorts and no pads and there's no defense on the other side, like you rule it out, like it's voided 100%. But go on.
Tennessee is extremely difficult to establish or run against, right? So ETN's going to get work in the passing game a little bit. The whole Tank Bigsby, I don't want to say experiment, but they're like toying with using him in the red zone and like third down back, and like that is completely out the window, right? So it's ETN's backfield 100%, and he will be involved in the passing game a little bit. But the way to beat this Tennessee defense, man, Mike Vrabel has any defensive unit that he coaches, he has these guys on lockdown. But the one thing is that he's lacking playmakers at the defensive back positions. Christian Kirk is an absolute target machine for Trevor Lawrence, man, especially when he lines up in the slot. It is game over when he gets into open field. So I really, really like Christian Kirk. He's $100 above Tank Dell, who everybody is playing. You guys can see where I'm going with this. I am all over Christian Kirk in tournaments. He is the number 1 exposure wide receiver that I have today on DraftKings.
I'm going to check my props on Kirk and see if I can get something in. I trust your judgment all day, every day. We're going to be taking Michael Wilson out of the player pool here in a minute, and I'm happy that I was sharp enough to go close your ears for a second, but I hammered some Rondale Moore props earlier this morning when I started to see the news trend towards him being out. The numbers I got were sexy. I feel really good about it. Everybody who's in our Discord at WinDailySports.com could take advantage of it. Look, I got his numbers before the news. I feel good about it. Well, Wilson out. Rondale Moore, 32.5 yards. Hammer the shit out of that. Feel good about that. And then 65 plus was plus 475. I think he can get there. The 80 yards is a reach, but when PointsBet is, generous enough to give you plus 1,200 on 80 yards for somebody who's going to be number 2, most likely. And if we remember, Rondale Moore, I think, in my perspective, outside of this new toy of Trey McBride, is Kyler Murray's favorite target. Like, he can't connect with Hollywood Brown for whatever reason. first week back, you see it happen. He didn't connect with Marquise Brown, and he fed Rondale Moore the ball. So if Rondale Moore just like can break one of these either long catches or just hit him with the screen, this guy's got speed. I think Rondale Moore is definitely in play for GPPs. Not so much GPPs, but like he's definitely in play for cash. However you want to play him. I played him in the prop market more than I'll play him in tournaments and stuff like that. Ghost, your thoughts on this low end with Michael Wilson out? What's your exposure to Moore? What's your exposure to Marquise Brown? Nobody's really talking about Robert Woods. He's popping on a model in this 3K range. I think Darnell Mooney is kind of sneaky if he can catch the ball at 3,300. I know it's gross down here sometimes, but I think Moore is fine for me. I'd rather play him than Marquise Brown personally.
I have 0 Hollywood Brown today.
Good.
I refuse. But it's exactly what I was alluding to before, right? When we're talking about the Amon-Ra's and the Tyreek Hills at the wide receiver position, it's like people are going to automatically go to Rondale Moore and now Robert Woods as well, right? Because Noah Brown is, I don't know if he's officially ruled out, but it doesn't look like he's going to play. And Robert Woods will take 3 wide receiver sets now, right? So it's just, again, if everybody's going to the exact same value plays, are you really getting different by playing those exact guys, right? Like it's, for me, if you want to force in a stud at the wide receiver position or you want to force in an Austin Eckler and things like that, if that's the way you're building, man, you got to get different with these value plays, man. Like I can't get behind playing a 20-30% rostered Rondale Moore in a tournament and expecting him to take it down. If that's what happens, by all means, I'll sleep like a baby tonight. And if that's what you guys are doing, go for it. Like it's your lineups, right? Don't let me talk you off of it. I really can't get there at these prices. I rather do exactly what you did. I'll bet his receiving prop. I'll bet him to score a touchdown. I'll bet his receptions prop. I'll find a way that if Rondale Moore goes off, I'll make some money.
Win.
But
yeah,
I can't get behind a 30% rostered Rondale Moore. Like you look at what Kyler does in this offense, man. He looked great rushing the football. We're leading up to the tight end position now. We're gonna talk about Trey McBride. I'll let you kick that one off, but he's still there. It's like I don't know how many touchdowns people are think this game is gonna score, but at least one of these guys is flopping like a fish today. So just be wary of that. You got to plant your flag somewhere. For me, I'm not playing any Cardinals wide receivers, period. I'm not playing Hollywood Brown. I'm not playing Rondale Moore. That's the flag that I planted. So you guys have to find a way to do that, or else just game stack every position in this game and hope that it goes for 70+ points. That's the only 2 ways that I would approach this.
Yeah, look, on Trey McBride, ever since Ertz was out, I locked him in every single week, and he hasn't done me wrong. So I'm not going to change it. And if you look at his like receiving prop, he's like at 55. So the books are behind McBride as well. Barring any kind of injury, we've seen tons of injuries. The dude from Florida State, probably the grossest injury we've seen recently. I don't know if you saw that, Ghost, but that was terrible. McBride, you play him in cash. I'll still play him in tournaments. I know there's ways to pivot off of it, but I try to just get different in a couple spots. And when I feel really good about a play like with McBride, it's tough to get off it, man. It's firmly in play at 4,400. There's a reason why he's the highest value at the tight end position on our model, because he's really just that active, that good, and he's actually a good player. It's not like Rondale Moore. You're hoping him turn into a good player overnight. He's actually good. He's done it all his career. I know it's a short career, but when given the opportunity, McBride definitely in play. Laporta and Kincaid, nice pivots off of a chalkier McBride for sure. I'm not going to Kittle. Ingram in play, but there's so many mouths to feed there. I'd rather go with the wide receiver like Go said with Kirk, but you could play him. I think Cole Kmet is, if you don't want to go to DJ Moore, I think he's firmly in play. He'll probably catch a touchdown as long as Justin Fields or one of the 3 running backs don't run it in. Dalton Schultz, he's the lowest owned outside of Nico Collins on the Houston side. So it's a way to get different. If you want to go, CJ Stroud and try to get a little bit different, pair him up, fade Singletary and pair him up with Schultz and, Nico Collins. That's in play for me. If you want to get cheaper than all that, Logan Thomas in play. Donald Parham, I've been picking him up in season long. I need some tight end help. I know it sounds gross, but I have Taysom Hill in a couple of my season long lineups, and he's been paying me out. So thank you, Gus Edwards. Thank you, Taysom Hill, for carrying me in some leagues. But I think Parham in play at 3,100. If you want to go cheaper than that, the two cheap guys that I would go to, one being Michael Mayer. I actually bet his prop earlier this week. He's 2,700. Parham 3,100. I know some people are talking about playing Freiermuth, but I just really don't play anybody against the Cleveland Browns. So he's cheap. You can get there. He probably catches some passes, probably hits value, but I'll take the upside in Meyer. Parham is catching a touchdown today. Can he catch two? Maybe. I don't think the Chargers like too many other people out there, and he's like going to be out there a bunch. So Mayer and Parham if you go cheap. McBride if you want to just set it, lock it, and forget it. Cole Kmet if you want to get a little bit different. And Ghost, I know you're going to talk about Kincaid. The Gabe Davis thing is probably not working out for Buffalo, and probably why you like Kincaid, I'm assuming. Musgrave also in play here, slower pace game, but Christian Watson hasn't really been doing his thing. I think Watson's in play for GPPs. Same thing with Jaden Reed that we didn't mention. To way to pivot off some of that other, chalk. Pay up a little bit more for those two guys. But talk about these tight ends before we get to questions. Get out of here.
Dalton Kincaid's going to be my number one utilized tight end today in tournaments. We touched on McBride. Everyone knows the situation about McBride by now. It is what it is, guys. You got to play him in cash. If you want to play him in tournaments, do you? Something tells me this game is not going to be what everyone thinks it's going to be. But McBride, if I had to pick one out of all this chalk, it's going to be Trey McBride. Tight end is a great way to get different on a slate like this. And if you need some value rather than going to a Rondale Moore, you need some value rather than going to a Robert Woods, this is the spot where I would do it. Everybody's going to play McBride. You got a slate with no Kelsey. Goddard's down with an injury, so even if he was on the slate, he wouldn't be playing, but he's also in that Monday Night Football game. TJ Hawkinson plays tonight. Mark Andrews played on Thursday, and unfortunately he's out for the season. Like this, Sticks and I always preach, these are the slates to get different at the tight end position. You talked about Donald Parham, no Everett, no Guyton. Like this could be a punt and pray type of strategy is what I like to call it. The old P&P. Hope they go for a TD. That's what it is. P&P, go for a TD. Like that's what we're doing at the tight end position. I'd much rather do it with that than say, oh, look at me, Rondale Moore got 8 fantasy points. Like I much rather punt and pray, hope that Parham gets a touchdown. The guy's like Victor Wembanyama of tight ends at this point. The guy's huge out there. It makes no sense. So Herbie's going to look towards him. Allen's a little banged up. That would be the guy that I really want to point out. I do like Dalton Schultz in that game. Again, him and Nico Collins, and nobody's playing them. I don't know why. If that game truly goes off, Dalton Schultz is going to do well. Arizona absolutely bleeds versus the tight end position, and Dalton Schultz's route running rate is through the roof this season. So those are two guys that I really want to highlight. Other than that, it's going to be your usual suspects. It's going to be the McBrides of the slate. Laporta's in a good spot with Goff there at home. For me, it's going to be Dalton Kincaid all day in tournaments. If you need a P&P, it's going to be Dalton Parham for me. And hope that you don't need him to. One thing that I want to point out with any of these punt tight ends, whether it be any of the guys that you have on the screen here, I see Michael Mayer at 27, Chiggy at 32, Parham at 31. I see people talking about Pat Freiermuth. I'm not playing him at all, and I know you're not, Jay, but you're playing guys like that. You don't need them to outscore other tight ends. You need them to outscore the Rondale Moores and the Robert Woodses of the slate. So just keep that in mind. Don't get discouraged if, McBride goes nuts and you didn't play him. That's okay. Just if you're playing a $3,100 tight end, you need him to outscore the $3,100 chalk, which is Rondale Moore and Robert Woods.
So let's get to a couple questions. Musgrave, yes. You can get there. He's been firmly in play, probably the most consistent guy for Green Bay catching the ball. Brian's asking, so would you rather take Mooney or get up to Samuel over Moore? I'd probably take a shot on Mooney myself. Goes, how do you guys do this now? You do the cash game, GPPs at each position? Is that how it works? Yeah, I've caught the show maybe 100 times, but you give me the routine.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to go, both of us give our favorite cash game play and tournament play. If you have multiple, by all means. So I'll let you kick it off. Cash game quarterbacks and then tournament quarterbacks, and we just go position by position.
Yeah, cash game quarterback. It's Kyler Murray, unfortunately, at 6,100. You got a rushing floor. He's got 33 rush yard prop. He's got the higher upside. In cash, you still can get there. I'd rather play him over anybody else. If you don't want to go Kyler Murray, I think Jared Goff is still fine at 6,600 for tournaments. CJ Stroud, a good way to go at 7K. And then I think if you want to get cute, I kind of do like Geno Smith or Matthew Stafford. Like they're going to be under 5% owned, and they can get you there. So just to repeat, I go Kyler or Jared Goff, cash game viable. And then tournaments, I like Geno, Stafford, and I'll also throw in Tua too. I think you can get there at 7,700. What do you got?
Cash, I'm going Kyler. Tournaments, I'm going 3-max Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, and Matthew Stafford.
There you go. So running backs for me, cash games. It's a trio of Singletary, Brian Robinson, and Tony Pollard. For GPPs, I think Pollard is still going to be forgotten to some extent. So I like Pollard as well. I like James Conner as well. And if it's not those two guys, Austin Eckler, if you can pay up and get different, I think Eckler is going to probably catch like close to 8 to 10 balls here. So I think Eckler is firmly in play. Other than those guys, I'm keeping my running back pool tight. Saquon is kind of interesting. If he can just find a way in the end zone, every ball should be in his hands the entire drive. So I think he's kind of sneaky. We spoke about Kenneth Walker as well. Ghost, what do you
got? Cash, it's Singletary and Brian Robinson. No ifs, ands, or buts about it there. You got to play at least those two. You mentioned Tony Pollard. I'm cool with that too. As a third running back. Tournaments at the top, it's going to be Austin Eckler for me. And to answer Sean's question about Luke Musgrave, he's actually my run back in that game. I went Musgrave and Eckler as the pairing. And tournaments mid-range, it's Gibbs and Montgomery, a duo. In Detroit, I feel like both those guys have great games. Raheem Mostert and Derrick Henry.
Okay, I like the Mostert call as well. For cash game, wide receivers, I like Amon-Ra at the top. In that mid-range, I don't know if you're going to force the Tank Dell, Rondell Moore. I think that works just fine. For GPPs, I love Cooper Kupp. I love Puka. I love DK Metcalf, all coming from that same game. Tyreek Hill, always in play for GPPs. If you go by the value guys here, like I said, Michael Wilson's out. We'll take that out after the show. Marquise Brown, fading for GPPs. You can play him in cash if you want. I like Rondell Moore in both cash and GPPs if you need to get there. Mooney, kind of sneaky. I like DJ Moore as well. Trying to think if there's anybody else I forgot. You might have sold me on some Christian Kirk, but I do think either Jaden Reed or Christian Watson could have a good game here or a big game here. So I think they're kind of sneaky as well. And Terry McLaurin also, he could get there against a really terrible defense.
Yeah. At the top, you already mentioned Amon-Ra and Tyreek. I will plant my flag with the Buffalo Bills today and say that I do like Stephon Diggs. In the mid-range, it's DK Metcalf and Christian Kirk for me. Those are my number 1 and number 2 exposure wide receivers on the slate. And for value, I am trying everything in my power to avoid dumpster diving. But if you guys do play a Rondell Moore, a Robert Woods, anything like that, I am rooting for you, and I hope they absolutely crush it. I will just not be getting there myself.
Go Strouds or Field, single entry 250.
Oh man,
it's a good one.
It's a very good one. Fields has a safer floor. I'm pretty sure Sticks has Stroud projected above him though, or it might be like a half a point difference there.
Yeah, got him above.
Yeah, so
it's less than a half a point. It's 0.13.
Yeah, 0.13. So I know Sticks really likes Justin Fields this week, so I'll try and answer on his behalf and assume that he would say Justin Fields. I feel like I know my boy and say that he would say Justin Fields for this one.
Yeah, and this question I'll answer Stroud with Nico. and Tank would work for me. I like the Nico upside. I'm looking to bet his prop as well at 55.5, but I think it just jumped before the show, so I didn't get there. Any other question? Hit us up right now. Props are in Discord. Make sure you hop over to Discord. We'll be in there always. It's a lock, talking, chatting. Couple guys goes, I know you're not going to like this one. I didn't mention it on the show. We didn't even mention this guy. Not a big fan of this guy. It was more of like, when you have to just enforce bad pricing, and it's like, all right, it's a price enforcement. When I see like certain books have a guy at 80 plus yards plus 580, and then one lone book puts plus 1200 out there, I'm gonna go out there and get it. You're not gonna like it. Quentin Johnston, 80 yards plus 1200. He could get there. If Keenan's really banged up and it's not Eckler, look, I would try to shut down Eckler. 80 yards, kind of like that. If you want to play it safer, 50 yards is plus 210. His regular number is 34.5. Like, can you at least think Quentin Johnson gets to 34.5? Ronald Moore gets to 32.5. They're going to be involved. I'm on those. I'm on the Tony Pollard rush prop. And then for tomorrow, I'm on Devontae Smith. Get it before it goes up. I think I got it at 55.5 receiving yards. With no Goddard, he becomes like way more involved. So at 55.5, I'm on that. Ghost, any last words, man, before we get out of here?
And no, other than it was an absolute pleasure, bro. We haven't done this together in quite some time. I'm really happy you joined. And I do see that Tim has a question because I feel like that's my bad, Tim. I might have,
we skipped defense. Go through defense real quick, man. Cowboys are great.
So, obviously, the Cowboys, like, just a really quick here before we wrap up so that everybody can go build their lineup. So what you're looking for in a defense is who can generate turnovers, right? So you're looking at who can allow the least amount of points, but realistically, that's an unknown variable. What you need to look for is who can generate turnovers, who could get sacks. That's why San Fran, for example, with Chase Young and Nick Bosa now, and their front seven is absolutely incredible, right? So it's, again, sticking to that. For cash, you have to play Washington, the Jets, or the Dolphins. Those are the three that are going to be highly rostered. So that's what you need to do for cash games. For tournaments, look at that kind of script. Obviously, the Jets still fit that with Josh Allen throwing interceptions and this and that. I'm just on the other side of that game, so I don't want to play the Jets defense in tournaments. But that would be something to look at. A lot of the defenses are higher priced today. I'm looking at the Chargers at 3,300 to pair with Austin Eckler. Or if you're not game stacking it, the Rams at 2,800 getting some turnovers off of Geno Smith. Not exactly opposed to that either. So it's really up to you guys. It's just what I look for in defenses are who can generate turnovers. Are they in a matchup against a turnover-prone offense, and who could generate some sacks? Like I need points, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the points allowed. It's gonna come no matter what. It's at the end of the day, like, okay, maybe Washington against the Giants today, they might not even score, but even at that, you're paying a premium for a defense where if the Giants end up scoring and Washington's not getting sacks, like it really sucks, right? So that's the one thing that I look for.
Yeah, if I'm dropping down into Jets D at 2,600, and I found myself when I can't get to the Jets, I'm just short the Packers against Herbert, just hoping for a lower score game and a couple of sacks, maybe a fumble or somehow a turnover at 2,300. And then Ghost nailed it. If you can get up, Cowboys at 4,100, the Bills even at 4,000, the Niners 39, Steelers at 35. And then the Commanders at 36. They all make sense, along with the Dolphins at 3,200. So you're paying up. There's no like easy cheat code, really cheap, great defense that is playing a shitty team. So the closest you got to that is the Jets at 2,600. But Ghost, appreciate doing the show with you, man. Let's make some money today. I'm definitely going to be making some money in the prop market, GPPs and DraftKings. Things got to break your way. So stay at it. We got a nice showdown slate. We got a nice Thanksgiving slate. If we don't see each other prior to Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving, even though you celebrated about a month ago because you're Canadian. Have some time off, enjoy some football. And, this is probably one of the last times that the Cowboys will still be good. So, enjoy it. because you know when those playoffs start, they'll start sucking again, bro.
Yeah, and hopefully Tony Pollard ends up performing today. So we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
he's gonna, man.
see
All
what
right, we're out of
happens.
here today. See you guys in Discord. Enjoy your Sunday with your fam and watch